It started with smoke, thick, black, rising into the air from behind my garage, right where I parked my police motorcycle. At first, I thought it was an accident, maybe a short circuit or a freak fire. But when I ran out and saw the scorched metal, the melted paint, and the smug faces of a few HOA board members watching from across the street, I knew it wasn't random. They had done it. They actually burned my bike, my police-issued vehicle, just because I wouldn't join their little Homeowners Association. They said it was community rules. But this wasn't about lawn height or mailbox colors. This was personal. I had moved into the neighborhood a few months earlier, trying to stay low-key, just a quiet place to relax after long shifts. I didn't mention my job. I didn't think I needed to. But apparently, not signing their HOA papers made me an enemy in their eyes. They left warnings, fines, then one day this. What they didn't know. I'm not just any resident. I'm the county sheriff. And that bike wasn't just mine. It belonged to the department. That changed everything. I had the authority, the resources, and now, the reason. What started as petty HOA drama just turned into something much bigger. And trust me, they weren't ready for what came next. It wasn't just about the bike anymore. That was the final spark in a fire that had been building since the day I moved in. The HOA president, Greg, early 50s, loud voice, tighter grip on the neighborhood than most city councils, took one look at me, a guy with no wife, no kids, and no interest in weekly potlucks, and decided I was a problem. At first, it was small stuff. Notes on my door, warnings about violating yard standards, even though my lawn was better than his. Then came the demands to sign up for the HOA and pay dues. I declined, politely, twice. But that wasn't good enough for Greg and his little group. They wanted control, and I represented pushback. I still hadn't told anyone who I really was. Not because I was hiding, it just didn't seem necessary. I wear the badge at work, not in my driveway. But these people weren't playing by normal rules. One neighbor, sweet older woman named Linda, whispered to me that the HOA had a history of bullying new residents into compliance. And when they couldn't scare them, things got weird. Now I was starting to connect the dots. Strange cars slowly passing my house. Trash can mysteriously knocked over. And now my police motorcycle, gone. Burned. But they had no idea who they were messing with. After the fire, I kept quiet. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I wanted to see how far they were willing to go. I filed a report like any officer would, documenting the damage, took photos, everything by the book. But I left my name off the front lines of the investigation. Let them think it was just another case. Meanwhile, I started watching. That's when I noticed how deep it really went. It wasn't just Greg. The HOA treasurer, a guy named Mark, had a private security company registered under his name. Small time, but enough to make you wonder why someone would need extra muscle in a peaceful suburb. And there was Jessica, the secretary, who always seemed to know when people were home or away. Turns out she worked part-time at the county records office. Access to addresses, property details, things you wouldn't think twice about, unless someone was using them. Neighbors started dropping hints. One guy, Jason, pulled me aside while walking his dog and quietly said, "They got my cousin kicked out last year." He refused to pay HOA dues, and suddenly code violations started piling up. Then someone found expired permits on his property. He sold within 3 months. I asked if he ever reported it. He just shook his head. They always find a way to twist it. The deeper I looked, the more I saw a pattern. People who didn't play by their rules were either forced out or worn down until they gave in. But no one ever pushed back. No one with real authority, until now. Still, I couldn't just throw the sheriff card on the table. If I did, they'd scramble, cover their tracks, play dumb. I needed more. I started wearing a body cam off-duty, set up discreet cameras around my property. I even ran background checks, completely legal, for a few board members. What I found: Greg had a string of civil suits against him, all sealed in settlements. Mark's company had once been investigated for intimidation tactics in another HOA community 2 towns over. All quieted down without charges. That couldn't be coincidence. And while all this was unfolding, something strange happened. My mail started going missing. Small things from my porch disappeared. Then one night, I heard footsteps outside my window, just after midnight. By the time I grabbed my sidearm and stepped out, they were gone. But not before I found muddy footprints in the flower bed. Whatever they were planning next, it was coming soon. And this time, they were making it personal. The tension in the neighborhood thickened. People had started noticing I wasn't backing down like the others had. The air was different, tight, like everyone was holding their breath. Greg's smile faded every time we crossed paths. He knew something was off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. I kept playing it cool, mowing my lawn, waving at neighbors, making it look like everything was fine. But behind the scenes, I was gathering everything I needed. Then came the meeting notice. Folded paper stuffed in my mailbox. No envelope, just a date, time, and location. The HOA clubhouse. Mandatory attendance, it said. No return address. The same night, I got a call from Linda, the kind neighbor. Her voice was shaking. She said Greg had been asking about me, trying to find out where I worked, if I had any connections. When she told him she didn't know, he muttered something about taking matters into our own hands. I knew that meeting wasn't about dues or landscaping rules. It was a setup. Maybe to corner me, maybe worse. I didn't show up empty-handed. Hidden mic, backup on alert, foam set to stream in case anything went sideways. I walked into that room, and the conversation went silent. Every board member was already there. Greg, Mark, Jessica, and a few unfamiliar faces sitting off to the side. One had a handheld radio. Another was wearing a jacket from Mark's security company. They closed the doors behind me. Greg stood up slowly, smirking like he had the upper hand. He started tossing out legal-sounding words: compliance violations, unauthorized surveillance, trespassing. He said I'd been reported to the HOA legal team. He said they had evidence. His tone was different now, cocky, but nervous underneath. He didn't know who I really was yet, but he clearly suspected I wasn't just a quiet guy with a badge on weekends. Then he dropped a folder on the table. Inside, copies of photos, screenshots of me installing the cameras around my home, printouts of parcel records I'd pulled, even a blurry image of me talking to Jason and Linda. He said I was harassing the board, that I had one last chance to cooperate or leave the neighborhood. My pulse was steady. I didn't flinch. I looked around the room and realized something. They weren't just trying to intimidate me. They were scared. Scared of being exposed. Scared that the truth might finally catch up to them. They'd pushed too far, messed with the wrong person, and now they were scrambling. I leaned in and said calmly, "You really should have checked who I was before you torched that bike." And that's when everything changed. The room froze. Greg blinked, caught off guard by what I said. One of the guys in the back shifted in his seat. Jessica glanced at Mark, who looked like he'd just been handed a live grenade. I let the silence hang for a few seconds longer, just long enough for the weight of my words to settle in. "I'm the county sheriff," I said quietly. "And that motorcycle you destroyed, that wasn't mine. That was department property. You didn't just mess with a neighbor, you committed a felony." Greg's smirk dropped. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Behind me, the clubhouse doors creaked slightly. Someone had been listening. I didn't turn around. I kept my eyes on Greg. But before anyone could speak, Mark stood up and slammed his hand on the table. "No one touches that footage," he snapped, his voice shaking. "We need to clean this up. Now." That's when it hit me there was more. This wasn't just about harassment or a burned bike. Mark wasn't panicking because they'd been caught intimidating neighbors. He was scared of something bigger. And then he slipped. "We don't need this turning into another Willow Creek mess," he muttered under his breath. Willow Creek. It rang a bell. A neighborhood 2 counties over. There had been news stories a year back, quiet settlements, people forced to sell, claims of private security overstepping boundaries. But the story died fast. No charges, no follow-up, just rumors. And now, Mark had just connected the dots for me. This wasn't the first time. Greg looked furious. "Shut up, Mark," he hissed. But it was too late. I leaned in again. "So how many neighborhoods has your HOA managed like this?" The tension snapped like a wire under pressure. One of the men from the back reached for something in his coat. That's when I knew I had pushed them into a corner. I slowly raised my hands, non-threatening, but my backup was already listening in, close, and watching from outside. I had everything I needed now, and they didn't even realize it. But just as I thought I had them figured out, the clubhouse lights flickered and shut off. Complete darkness. A click, a slam, and then someone whispered from the corner of the room, "You shouldn't have come here alone." The room was pitch black, and for a few seconds, everything was silent, too silent. I stayed still listening. My instincts kicked in, trained by years on the job. There was movement to my left. Slow, careful. Someone was trying to get behind me. I didn't speak. I just waited. And then... Asterisk flashlights hit the windows asterisk. Red and blue lights lit up the night outside as two deputies kicked open the clubhouse doors. "Sheriff's Department. Hands where we can see 'em," they shouted. In the chaos, someone tried to run. It was Mark. He made it halfway across the room before being tackled and cuffed on the floor. Another man, one of the unknowns from the back, lunged for a bag near the wall. They stopped him before he reached it. The lights flicked back on. Faces were pale. Greg was shaking. Jessica looked like she was about to be sick. I pulled my badge and held it up. "I gave you every chance," I said. "You picked the wrong person to mess with." We found evidence in that bag. USB drives, camera footage, financial records. Enough to link their little HOA group to at least 3 other neighborhoods, including Willow Creek. They'd been quietly buying influence, intimidating residents, pushing people out to swoop up properties at a discount through shell companies, all under the cover of enforcing community standards. My deputy spent the next 2 hours collecting statements, securing the clubhouse, and arresting everyone involved. Greg was silent the whole time. No smug comments, no last-minute threats, just a look in his eyes like he finally realized the game was over. But just when I thought it was done, I got a call from dispatch. They'd run a deeper search on the security company Mark had registered. Turns out, it was owned by a larger firm based out of state, one that had ties to a private real estate group known for targeting small towns and flipping entire blocks. And that real estate group, the CEO was listed under a name I hadn't heard in a long time, my old police academy classmate, someone I hadn't spoken to in years, someone who once told me, "There's always more power outside the badge." That's when I realized this wasn't just a local HOA scam. This was part of something much bigger. And it wasn't over yet.